Alright guys, how's the audio? Hey Miguel, can you guys hear me alright? Hey Keith, Hans, Chad, everybody hears me? Great. Hey Carson, awesome. Well really this is, you guys can jump right in. What kind of questions we got going? I don't know if you want me to start out with what most difficult cars are, or sorry, read through the comments here. And that is just coffee. Interesting, got a bunch of Facebook stuff rolling into, a ton of messages from there. Suzuki J2534 available from Keith. So they do offer SEPs, which is a big steaming pile of junk and doesn't ever work very well. But you knew that was coming. So Chad asked, what's the recommended J2534 tool for me? Actually, he says J2543. I'm not familiar with that protocol. But I personally use the Bosch MasterTech VCI. It appears to be the same as the first generation General Motors MDI. Chad will trade you 2 boxes for AutoLogic. But I personally use the Bosch Green Box MVCI just because I seem to have the least amount of issues with it. But DrewTech and all the rebranded DrewTech products, which includes the AE Tools AEZ Flasher, the AEZ Flasher 2, Snap-on's Pass-Through Pro 2, Launch's current J-Box. I think the new Ease Diagnostics J2534 box is also a rebranded Cardec product or a DrewTech product. All of those have fantastic support, and the toolbox software that comes with them works really well. It has a couple features that are really good, like the skim erase function that's built into the toolbox, all works really well. So I would recommend either a DrewTech or the Bosch just based on the support they offer, and that you'll have, and you'll have the most availability to using the J-Box as a validated tool, because those two are the most validated J2534 devices. Now, although you do have like the Autel and a ton of other ones out there, I've used the Autel. I haven't had any problems with the Autel, but it's not validated. So in the event that I use it on like a newer vehicle, I do a lot of newer vehicles, and I have an issue. Well, if I have to call technical support for, let's say, using ACDelco TDS and doing the SPS software, let's say I have to call them because I have an issue, they're not going to going to want to help at all if I start out with letting them know what J-Box to use, because they're going to ask what box I'm using. And if I'm using a non-validated device, the first thing they're going to tell me is, well, you're using a non-validated device, so we can't ensure that our software will work at all. So that's the biggest issue with it. Pass-through Pro, no support. That's worth it. No support. Hello, Trained by Tex. Here to watch New Levels questions. Well, he's here to answer questions too. I just kind of, I'm not going to say I tricked him into it. He knew it was coming. So New Level Auto, if you guys don't, I have no doubt in my mind that every person that's here is probably already subscribed to Keith's channel. at New Level Auto. But if you're not, go check that out. Keith has way more experience than me at doing mobile diagnostics flashing. He is 24/7 mobile. That is his gig. And what about what charger? Chad asked what charger to get for programming. You want to not use a charger and try to use a power supply. One designed for that. Now there's two that I normally recommend, but there are a couple other ones out there on the market. But the two that I recommend are both Schumacher products. So Snap-on sells an EEBC Echo Bravo Charlie 500 Alpha is the part number, and it's a wheel around unit. The shipping weight is 86 pounds, so it is extremely heavy. But it is a rebranded Schumacher product, the INC 500. Schumacher now offers the INC 700, which has the ability to push up to 100 amps while maintaining voltage. So that's what's important about using a flashing programmer, is that they don't push voltage to maintain a steady amperage. They push amperage to maintain a steady voltage, and that's what almost all flashing is dependent upon, is a steady voltage. So that's really important that you use a properly designed flashing power supply, one that's designed for that, one that's clean, that has low AC ripple. I can say that the Schumacher units don't have the lowest ripple in the market. I think Iota makes one that has a significantly lower AC ripple, which can prevent flashing errors. But I can say to date, I haven't seen a flashing error that I've encountered that was due to ripple because of the programmer. I have had one due to ripple because of aftermarket devices put on. So, gentlemen, I've been seeing the OTC one lately that looks good. I think Keith can back me up from New Level Auto on this one, that the OTC unit is really slow and the software is really lacking, and I'm just not a fan of the hardware. It's not that it has errors. I've never had an error with an OTC or Bosch or Drutech product that was the product's fault, but I also don't do a lot of J2534 flashing on Chryslers. And the older software, before YTech 2 came out and they changed the J2534 software, the older software was pretty unstable with the J-Box. I've always used YTech for that. So I have probably the least amount of experience with, I can say that I don't think personally I have ever flashed a Chrysler with a J-Box. It's always been with a DRB3. So I take that back. I have used the legacy software of the J-Box software for pre-CAN Chrysler flashes, but using the newer software for CAN vehicles, I've never used the J-Box on a Chrysler. Bosch J2534 worked for 2006 Mazda Tribute ECU programming. Yes, so 2006 Tribute, and Keith, do you remember if that is, if you can use FMP on that, or if you have to use the Mazda module programming in the aftermarket world? I also own a VCM1, so I use IDS, and I found that some early Mazdas, man, I think 2006 might work. Early Mazdas, I still use Ford IDS to reprogram some of them, even though they've removed a lot of the capability from the newer version. So I'm currently on Ford IDS version 108 and some change, and I did just the other day a 2002 or 3 Mazda Tribute. Reflashed the gem module, had some water intrusion issue or something. Any experience with the Autel J2534 box? Yes. I've used it a few times, never had an issue, but it's just more of a backup device for me. Just because it's not validated, I try my best not to use it unless I got one that I want to test it out on and see if it works and don't mind bricking or so you can still use, yeah. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, you can still use FMP on an 06 for sure. Any info on the Farsight by Autologic? So I did a video on the Farsight tablet by itself, mainly overviewing the hardware. So a brief, without redoing the whole video, because I think it was probably like a 30-minute video on the hardware. Hey, Zach. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Lance's question. Keith, can a used 2005 Chevy PCM be used? Yes. 2005 Chevrolet, you can reuse the PCM. You can use a used one and flash it. As long as the I think it's called the it's not the part number that's on the back. There's a I'm sorry, the word escapes me. It's engineering part number. It's separate. It's on the bottom of on the back of the PCM. You'll see there's two part numbers. They're different than the actual part number because the original part number is the calibration number. The thanks, Keith. The original part number that's on there, that's in larger letters, I believe, on the PCM is a calibration part number, and then there's a engineering part number that's the hardware part number. As long as the two hardware part numbers are the same, then yes, you can reuse a 2005 Chevy PCM. All right, so back to the Farsight. I did check it out. I had it for almost a month. The hardware is impressive. It's actually made by a company in Taiwan called WinMate. For the size of the unit compared to other scan tools, it's extremely heavy. It's like almost 6 pounds. And sorry, Neil. Thanks, Train by Text. If you guys haven't paid attention to any video I've done at all, which is very possible, you'll notice I've joined a group of other guys that are doing videos to help train some technicians, and those. The group's called Trained by Text, so up in the, let's see, this corner? I don't even know. One of the corners, my video's all lagged. So one of the two corners, there's a little tag that says Trained by Text channel. If you click the icon, the first thing that pops up is the poll that I made. So I want you guys to take that poll if possible. And then below that, if you scroll down, there's a link to the Trained by Text channel. So go there. Like, subscribe, watch the videos, join the conversation. The purpose of that channel is to hopefully grow and release as much information to the industry as possible and help you guys get involved in training because it's needed. If you're not doing training on a regular basis, you're going to get behind, and it just makes your job more difficult. But the Farsight. So the tablet was impressive. The software, there's nothing software on it wise that's really theirs except for like the opening screen. They're providing G-Scan, which is the OE manufacturer of the Hyundai Kia factory tool. Their new product is called the G-Scan Tab, and it's just a small dongle and some PC-based software. I don't think they're releasing it to the US for anything for a while. I think it's all built directly into the Farsight right now. There's some exclusivity contract with them. And that's what they're using for diagnostics. Thanks, Rich. Not going to happen. Nobody wants to see that. You guys have to. I'd get paid more money to put clothes back on. So the diagnostic software built into the Farsight is G-Scans. Bernie Thompson's Automotive Test Solutions company, ATS eScan, is also optional with the tablet. The real thing that Farsight's offering is the support. So for 10, 11 grand or something, you purchase 3 years of support, and then you get the tablet for free. And really the tablet, they've designed that to where they have a standardized hardware and software platform to help you diagnose vehicles. So that's what the whole Farsight thing is. I wasn't impressed with the way the software was set up currently just because the G-Scan tab is so new, had a lot of bugs in it. I couldn't even connect to like a 98 Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. Had some K-Line Nissan stuff, or pre-canned, so 2005, 6 and down Nissans that wouldn't connect to it all, had communication issues. So if I went to the generic side, I got all the PCM data. Went to the OE side of the tool, it wouldn't even talk to it. So I wasn't impressed at the time, but I have seen the software's come a long ways. So Phil asked if I'm ever going to do Diag videos. It's just so difficult to do Diag videos when I'm a full-time flat rate automotive service technician at a shop, and then I'm also doing mobile diagnostics and flashing. So it's difficult to stop and film videos and still pay all my bills and make money. But I will do as much as I can. I do have 2-3 videos in the making right now, but man, for every video that's 20 minutes long, I've got 4 hours of filming and 10 or 12 hours of video editing to do to make them halfway decent. So, but I do have some coming out. I already have them all. No Robinson's Auto. It's coffee, just black coffee. yeah, I've got some diag videos coming up. What do I think of the auto test? Haven't got any experience with it yet, hands-on, but I'm looking into it, so I'll let you know as that goes. I try to get a hold of that stuff and make videos whenever I can. Wow, that's expensive. Simply not everyone. Thanks for the heads up. Oh yeah, thank you, Keith, for I guess if you made a try to get some people over here, so it wouldn't be just me talking to myself like normally. It's coffee. It's coffee. I spilled some on myself today already this morning. First time I spilled coffee on myself this morning. Let's see. So yeah, we covered what J-Blocks I prefer. We covered some of the power supply, charging power supply stuff. The other thing is OE tooling. I mean, to be honest, I prefer OE tooling for doing every flash. It's the tool originally designed for it, but the cost just doesn't permit it for everyone, and I understand that. The shop I work at, we have access. I either have on-site or have access to pretty much every single OE tool there is. And then within the few that we don't have access to within our network of franchises, I have a couple local connections that do have. So like the Mercedes-Benz Entry, we don't have one within our network of franchises. So we have a local guy that does a lot of Mercedes stuff, owns his Entry. So I help him out with some of my tools. I own a few OE tools myself outside the shop, and then so I kind of trade services with him. So whenever I need his Entry, I borrow it. What's required for Porsche J2534? So PIWIS or PIWIS or however it's pronounced. It's a process involved getting it, but it's not as bad as doing a Volkswagen Otis. Really, you want to read the service information. There's a lot of documentation on their website for it, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, and it's expensive. I've had to do one, and that was plenty. I'd rather just turn it away. It's not worth it. Hey, Flat Rate Master. Hey, Mike. Must be completely bored to be on here. Drew's Auto. I almost missed this. Whatever. Yeah. Welcome back, Drew. I think you were like very first earlier when I was messing around. I had no idea what I was doing on the live stream and kicked the live stream out for a minute, not knowing. What reading material do you suggest for understanding scope waveforms and using a scope? Josh says he doesn't have a scope yet, but looking to have knowledge before I have my hands on one. So I can totally understand that, Josh, that you want to get some knowledge on it and see if you want to jump into the scope world before you spend a bunch of money on it. But it's difficult to grasp all the understanding without playing with it, because the biggest thing is when you get a scope, you want to just start scoping every card, good cards specifically first. You want to see what you're used to looking at first and understanding what you're looking at. It's really difficult to learn how to scope when you start out with a broken vehicle. But documentation. So Graham Stokes has a book, Automotive Waveforms. I can't remember the name of the book. I met someone in person who had it, and I kind of flipped through some of the page stuff. It looks pretty good. It looks like it's really well thought out for teaching scope patterns and understanding what you're looking at. Scanner Danner's book is really good. It has a lot of foundational stuff that's required, and that's reading material wise. I wouldn't even go specifically towards looking at books about scopes. I would push every technician to learn the foundations of each system heavily. I'm very young as a technician, and I don't have 25, 30 years of experience like some of the guys do out there that are just rock star technicians. So I have to base all of my diagnostics, at least primarily, on superior systems knowledge, because I don't have the 30 years of experience, the Identifix brain, seeing all the pattern failures to experience to know where to go first. So I have to just have a superior understanding of the system and how it works and what each component in there and its job within the system, and use that knowledge to figure it out. Now, having the scope just allows me an additional tool to check those things out. So I would just push you to learn each system as best you can before you do it. And I wouldn't even say before you do it. I would just say get a scope. So thanks for trained by text button. No problem. I have a very small niche people that are going to want to watch the stuff that I do, because I don't have a channel structured for 1 million subscribers or 100,000 subscribers. This is just stuff that I'm interested in, so I wanted to produce the videos that I'm interested in, and hopefully the people that are in the same small group as me will have places to have conversations and connect. But Train by Tech's channel, which I would really prefer everyone to go there and subscribe and watch. We're producing videos here for every technician at every level, with foundational knowledge and really advanced level stuff. So please use that as a platform, guys. Let's see. My advice to buy a scope, even if it's a cheap one, and just start testing good cars from there. So I agree, Keith. My first scope that I purchased, not that I was lent to use, was a Hantek. I bought the Hantek 1008C. It was like $90 on eBay shipped. Before that, I had quite a bit of experience with the Vitronics Master Tech that has the 2-channel scope module. I still own it. I still own my original one with it. I can't say I've used it in a while because of AESWave, which if you are not a customer of AESWaves, just if they sell it, buy it from them. They have a small 1-channel scope called the Uscope. I have a lot of people that I talk to about it, and they tell me, oh, they've seen it on eBay. It's the same one they sell there. The manufacturer of that scope does sell it, but AESWave software that's on it is what makes the difference. It's what makes the tool night and day. Yes, Brent is very smart. Phil Holbrook says that Brent, I think his name is Sharp Tech. Brent is a very sharp business owner and technician. Yes. Brent is brilliant. Absolutely. Zach, I'm upset I didn't get to the stream earlier. Don't worry, Zach. It's nothing big going on here. The entire crew is brilliant. Absolutely, Keith. Every technician involved in the Train by Tech's channel is A class. That's why I recommend you guys go check them out. Brent's definitely awesome dude all around. So Brian Coletta, one of the main guys in Train by Tech's, is running the Train by Tech's channel right now on the chat. So that's who's talking. Put out their Brian shop stream video today. It was very informative. I do not own a Snap-on Diagnostics tool, but I do help a lot of shops that do, and it was really good to get some understanding of how that software works, because I just don't have the hands-on time to mess with it as much as possible, so that video helped me a lot. Joseph, you're absolutely right. After you're learning your scope setup, you have to have command of the system you're working on, otherwise you're just looking at squiggly lines. Absolutely. Thank you, Joseph. How is R2RAC going to affect the aftermarket scanners as far as validating the tool? All right, David Hernandez. So our biggest the biggest mover and shaker we're going to see in that issue is already happened. It's Chrysler. So 2018 and above Chryslers, when you go to connect to the secured gateway module, which, man, Chrysler's been back and forth on their architecture between having a central gateway module, usually, which is the TIPM, and then split over to the star junk connectors that make like a ring type network, like old class 2 GM stuff, to now they're back to having a secured gateway module is what they're calling it. You cannot access the network directly, all the modules on the network, without having a validated tool. And Chrysler right now, I think the only validated tool is the YTech 2.0 with an active tech authority login. So we recently had a 2018 Fiat 500 Abarth or something, and solid blood larger extra. Sorry. Anyways, I'm trying to keep up with the comments and read it. So Chrysler YTech, you cannot even get on the network and view anything except for some generic data without having a current licensed YTech 2.0 with an active tech authority subscription. So Chrysler's already locking stuff out. They're only giving you what they legally have to give you, which is generic OBD2 data and then access to flashing with a J device. They don't have to give you all the rest of the information. They're not legally required to. So that's going to affect, that's starting with Chrysler. It's already out there, so it's going to bleed off through all the other manufacturers. So you're going to see that more and more, that you'll have less and less access to networks, less and less access to separate modules. I believe Chrysler is currently allowing a lot of information to be viewed from other modules through the Secure Gateway module, but it's all bus information. So if you have bad connection, software errors, needs a flash update, you could be getting incorrect information. So in the video I released for Train by Techs, I went through a walkthrough of the YTech 2.0 software. And within the TIPM, which is your central gateway module in that vehicle, I pointed out that some of the inputs were listed as sensors and some of them were listed as bus input. So if it was listed as a sensor, then that particular sensor is directly wired to that module you're in. If it says bus input, that module monitors that data PID, but it does so by receiving all the data PID information from the other module that that particular sensor is wired directly to. So there's a lot of room for error there by having it go from one module to another and shift. Let's see, Hantek or just regular channel. We don't have video I'm currently putting together. Train by Techs is now subscribed. Looking forward to what you were teaching. Awesome. Good job, Josh. Thank you. Awesome, Josh. Looking forward. Absolutely. So Brooke, it's all the government. Yeah, I mean, really, the manufacturers wouldn't give us even a check engine light or any availability to touch anything in the software if it wasn't for the United States government going, hey, the EPA saying, look, you got to give access to the software and stuff so they can fix these vehicles so they're not polluting the environment. I mean, that was the EPA's entire push for the Clean Air Act and for having the OBD2 protocol, and requirements of that was we have to be able to fix these vehicles to make sure they are emissions compliant. So it's all the government is a bad thing, it's all the government is a good thing, both. I mean, we only have access to work on these vehicles and their emission systems because of government mandates. No, it didn't work out. The Train by Keith channel didn't work out. I assume that's what you meant by TBK. That's a good one. So R2R stuff that also affects us is cost of doing business as a technician that wants access to OE software and flashing is in fact going to go up. So that's another mandated R2R. The OEs are not happy that they have to restructure all of their tools and hardware to be used with J devices. So they're going to pass that savings, they're going to pass that cost onto us. So yes, we're going to see that it's just going to be more expensive. Preceded data, know a lot about that. I don't think it's face value process data can lie. Absolutely, good job. Good thing to bring up, bus jockey. So absolutely, if you have, I see a lot on Hondas, especially like engine coolant temperature sensor stuff. You can have engine coolant temperature circuit faults go into the OE side. You know, you bust out your scan tool, your capable scan tool, your Snap-on, your Autel, your Launch, your whatever product you got, go into OE side, start viewing data and going, well, I don't understand why I'm having this code. I mean, the engine coolant temperature sensor is right on par with where it should be at operating temperature. The fluid temperature sensor for the transmission is within 20 degrees of this. Everything seems fine. You view your data PID, everything looks good. I mean, this is where you break out, your voltmeter or your scope, and you connect to the item and find out, or connect to the device and then find out that, man, the sensor's reading open or whatever. Well, if you go on the generic side, you can see that and this happened to me on a Honda just recently, the engine coolant temperature sensor is reading -40. It's open. The circuit's open. But because the PCM realizes that value doesn't make any sense. It would make no sense that the transmission fluid temp is reading at 180 degrees and the intake air temperature is reading at 98 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the engine coolant temperature sensor is -40. That's implausible. We know there's a problem with that, so we're just going to ignore that data and we're going to use a substituted value. So we're going to assume that when transmission temp is 180 and the vehicle's at 18 minutes of runtime and we're in closed loop because O2 data looks good, then we're going to assume this vehicle's at 205. So I was seeing like 205 degrees or 190 degrees on engine coolant temperature sensor on the OE side, but on the generic global side, I was seeing -40. And that's because the EPA mandated we see raw data. We see raw values. We cannot see substituted values. So don't discount using generic side of data. It's extremely important. You can really trip yourself up. How much do you spend monthly or yearly on subscriptions? That's one I'll get to in a second. Currently text Roadhouse eating 16 ounce prime rib medium rare while chatting with you fine people. That sounds good, Train by Tips. Brian, I think I'm almost out of coffee, so I'll have to get some more of that. So how much do I spend monthly or yearly on subscriptions? A lot. I am not sure between Honda, Toyota, Nissan, GM, and the GM cost is going up. Lance, I'm going to touch on that in a second, the $40 per VIN. Oh, did Phil say something about it? Heard GM is changing their flashing prices after quitting 3-day subscriptions. Yeah, I'll touch on that now, actually. So I don't know what I spent on monthly, yearly. I'd have to pull up my books and take a look at what I've spent. A lot, too much, I'll tell you that. So GM did change. February 15th was the cutoff date. They went from offering 1-day, 3-day, and yearly subscriptions to SPS, which is unlimited VIN for the service programming systems. They went to $40 per VIN. So their original theory was that the majority of their customers that purchase the product purchase a short-term 1 to 3-day subscription for $55 for unlimited access. And then they did a study internally that out of all those people that purchase those subscription, they use one VIN number during that short-term subscription. So in their minds, they imagine they have 20,000 customers and 18,250 of them are only buying a short-term and paying $55 and using it for one VIN, probably for a single update session. So they figured in their mind they're gonna affect the majority of their customers by saying $40 a VIN for 2 years access. They can sell it as they're saving the guys money, when in all reality we know that probably over half of us were paying the $9.95 a year for unlimited VIN access to SPS. So we go from spending, if you do 100 flashes, if you do 100 flashes a year, $10 a flash, pay for your $1,000 bucks. That's not a bad cost. To now we're doing 100 flashes a year at $40 a pop, is what they're thinking. So there was a grace period, which unfortunately, if you're asking that question now, you missed out. You could have purchased up to 2 years is what when I called, they said you could purchase up to 2 years of the yearly $9.95 a year cost, added to whatever you had left to your current subscription. So I purchased a year. The shop I work for, I made sure they purchased a year. But if you waited till after February 15th, you only have the option of carrying your current subscription out to where it is and then doing $40 a VIN. So that is something that's changed, and it's a big hit. So some people, like if I calculated up what I did the last year, if I had paid $40 a VIN, I would have spent like 19 grand or something, which means Keith at New Love Auto probably would have spent like 50 grand or something versus $9.95 a year. So this was a big hit to us, and we have to pass it on to our customers. I gotta go, Keith. I'll watch the rest of this later. Thanks for all you do. No, thank you, Chad, for being here. Sabino, it's 22:33. My audio is very low. Let me fix that. Thank you, Pico. At least I'll see if I can fix that. All right, is that any better? Keith is the man, Chad. I don't know if I'm back. I don't know if I'm the man. I am back, wife. All right, Flat Rate. Thanks for coming back. Let's see. Flashing program, which pass-through do you recommend? DrewTech. I covered in the beginning of the video. Yes, DrewTech is a good option. I personally use the Bosch. It's just a preference more than anything. DrewTech's a good product. Great product and probably the best support on the market. And if you purchase it through AESWave, you'll have DrewTech's awesome support, and then you'll have AESWave's awesome support. So it's AESWave.com. George, Carlos, those guys over there, Daniel, all of them do amazing support. So that's who I would recommend to purchase it from, and you'll have fantastic product support from the manufacturer and fantastic after-purchase support from who you bought it from. Or are there other options in your opinion? Yes, I use the Bosch MVCI. It's a 10-year-old product now though, you know, so we're looking at, it's J2534-1 and -2 compliant. So without nerding out too much on the two protocols, J2534-1 was invented to allow reflashing of emissions-based components and using that JBox to mediate the transfer of data. And then the -2 protocol was added to allow non-emissions vehicles. So the or non-emissions modules within the network. So your BCMs and your HVAC control modules, and some manufacturers are better than others. So like with General Motors, for instance, if you have a compliant J device that's validated, it doesn't have to be validated. But if you have a J2534 device and you pay for SPS, you have access to, on a CAN vehicle, pretty much every single module within the vehicle can be flashed via that device. And there's reasons why some are that way and some aren't. Let's see. How is that real Diag guys like yourself and others don't get no views when people like Chris Fix get millions of views, subscribers? We have think about how many technicians there are that are diagnostic technicians or guys that are interested in it versus how many people are there to just work on their own cars and are not getting involved in heavy diagnostics and don't have the equipment. So they're catering to a very large audience of people, so they're going to get a very large audience. I'm catering to a very small audience. If I wanted to, I mean, if you go back and look at my really old videos, I was catering just to 300ZX guys in the community, just DIY 300ZXers. 300, the Nissan 300ZX. And then I did a couple videos on like spark plugs and doing brakes, and that was just some generic stuff, just trying to find my niche. But I find the most enjoyment out of teaching younger technicians and teaching anyone that'll listen, helping anyone that'll listen. So that's why my channel's kind of transitioned to, I'm getting all these flashing videos out of the way, but I will have more Diag videos for sure. The shop I'm at now does allow me more time than what I had before, but yeah, they're catering to a much larger audience. I'm not trying to get 1 million subscribers. There's ads in there in my videos, and that helps pay for equipment, helps pay for, I mean, I got a new computer that I'm on now. I was rocking an old CF30 as my daily computer. I have a ton of tough books laying around, so I was like, well, I'll just use those. So the little bit of income I have off of YouTube has helped pay for some equipment to make better videos for you guys. I'm trying to make as best quality videos as I can so I can get as much information out there as possible. Absolutely, Hands AES is definitely a great company. Are there cars makes that work easy and others that are always a pain that you know that will be trouble? Yeah, so like I said, Chrysler has always been kind of iffy with JBox flashing, and Nissan too. I currently serve as a volunteer Nissan Affinity Specialist for about 180 stores within the franchise company that I work for. I do as much as I can to help when we have diagnostic and flashing issues on Nissans and Infinitis, because they are so finicky and require so much attention to do the flash. They're probably one of the most involved flashes in the JBox world, with the most amount of failures or hiccups to even get started with flashing it. There's so many issues with how you have to move files, and I have a couple videos posted that cover some of the information on how to do it. But I would say Nissan's one of the most difficult to use a JBox. To use the Factory Consult 3 Plus tool, it's super easy. I have one at the shop, and it just blows right through most of the stuff. But using the NERS, the Nissan ECU reprogramming service software is finicky for sure. And then a lot of Europeans, just because most people are not familiar with the tool. I use Volkswagen Vita a lot. I try to use the OE scan tool on even just regular diagnosis. So that's another thing that makes the videos so bad. Volvo's so bad or easy. I think Volvos are really easy. Vita software, if you get used to using it, is a very powerful tool because they have, Volkswagen is software is Vita. Volkswagen Information and Diagnostic, or I don't remember what it stands for. Their software is awesome. Much like Chrysler, you have a physical network topology map that gives you color coding for modules that are on the network and off the network. You have your parts information, service information, wiring diagrams, all your repair information, fixes, troubleshooting, all of that's built into one software suite. So Volvo software is really, really good. I like it. And if you get used to using those, and that's what I tell technicians all the time that I'm helping with, within our franchise, we have a lot of structured help. And if you get used to using the OE tool, whenever you have to use it, because whatever you're trying to do requires the OE tool, you'll be familiar and you won't have to waste a ton of time trying to get it done. So I recommend if you have access to the OE tool, try to use the OE tool. Getting familiar with it and getting familiar with all even your aftermarket tools. Be familiar with your tool. When you need it, you don't want to have to learn how to use it when something's broke. It's a total pain in the butt. Do they teach flashing and programming at your local tech college? Oh, I think they're asking. I don't know if they're. Hans, are you talking to me or asking me about do you teach flashing programming? Do they teach flashing programming at local tech college? At the local tech college to me, there's two, and that I'm aware of, neither of them do. I could be wrong. Oklahoma Technical College and Tulsa Technology Center, both of them vocational technology schools. They do have automotive repair classes, but I don't think they cover much flash programming that I'm aware of. Trying my techs for making videos to improve skills professional industry. Absolutely. Chris said Volvo's so bad or easy. Like I said, I like Volvo. I think it's great. Tommy Wolf with positive lead diagnostics had an issue flashing a Nissan in a recent video. Man, I didn't see that. I do subscribe to positive lead diagnostic stuff, and I didn't see that video. I'm pretty far behind. VW equals Otis. Yep. Onboard Diagnostic Information Systems is Otis. It's for VW, Audi, Skoda, or Seat, however it's pronounced. I'm in Oklahoma, so I pronounce everything wrong anyways. Simply Diagnostics, great advice right there. Hands, or does the tech college teach it? Tech college teach it? Do you think it should be taught? Yes, I do think it should be taught. I think module flashing it should be part of the diagnostic routine now. I mean, if you have a Chrysler if you've got a 2010 plus Chrysler with a EVAP code, chances are it has a flash to resolve the issue. If the system in fact does work as function, it doesn't have a failed component. I'm not saying flash every vehicle that has the code that goes with it. You want to do your diagnostics first, for sure. The other techs that might struggle with using other scan tools other than Snap-on, I wind up doing a lot of hand-holding with the OE or aftermarket scan tool. Absolutely. I don't even own a Snap-on diagnostic tool. I haven't, just short of the old Modus Brick, which is a fantastic OBD1 tool, just because it was so heavily built, designed, and structured by Vitronics, Bosch. Well, it was Vitronics, Bosch purchased them. But absolutely, I haven't even owned a Bosch diagnostic tool since the old Modus Brick with the personality keys, and it's not that it's a bad tool. I covered it in my scan tool video. I mean, that thing's like an hour long. I get it. Nobody wants to watch it, but I cover in there that the reason why I don't use it is for 90% of technicians out there that are doing day-to-day work, not heavy diagnostics, just some generic function stuff, it's a good tool, but it lacks so much functionality for what I do in the vehicles that I see. I'm doing so many different module communication issues and newer vehicles, and the shop I'm at is heavily priced for the area we're at. We're a little more expensive than almost everywhere else around. We're not even really competitively priced with a dealer, and because of that, we don't get the easy check engine light stuff. They took it to AutoZone, they got the light checked, and AutoZone told them they needed 6 things, and they took it to their buddy Ernie's, who does work, and he put on all the parts they said, and then he threw a couple more parts at it and stabbed a bunch of stuff with a test light, and then no one can figure it out, so now it came to us because it's been to 3 other shops. So we don't get the easy stuff. And because of that, I don't get to see the 90% of check engine light drivability diagnostics out there. So I can't use a Snap-on. It just misses. I'm missing so much functionality with it. But it's great for most of the technicians out there. That's why there's so many of them out there. My shop. New Level Auto, because you didn't watch my video, Phil. Did I not watch a video? Watch all your videos, Keith. We talk. Phil, I had a good video put out today. Yeah. Simply diagnosed. Poor Tommy, he always looks terrified. He does some great content. Yeah, Wolf does good comment, does make great content. Almost all the guys out there, Flat Rate Master, you do awesome content. I love all your industry talks. JM Diagnostics, Justin, you do awesome stuff. I just saw you. I just saw your name on there. Yeah, just got out of local family administration. It's cool, man. Thanks for being here. Another trained by techs technician and running a successful professional shop, JM Diagnostics. It's great. Go check out his channel. Also, one of the trained by techs guys. What do you think will come change in the next 5 years in the sense of electric vehicles like Tesla and all the others that are coming? So that's big. I mean, I've been working on Priuses since they came out, and the Hondas and the Nissans that have hybrid systems. Nissan's first hybrid systems I used, they were a leasing product, a leased technology from Toyota. So their Nissan's first generation hybrids were all pretty much the same system as a Prius for the most part. The technology was, but their new stuff is a lot different, and I'm telling you, it's changing. It's changing a lot. There's companies are using Audi's using their electric supercharger to decrease the amount of time required to spool. The systems are there, and they're complicated. Audi's using multiple voltage systems, not considered high voltage. I think the industry standard is anything over 60 volts is high voltage. So they have 4 different voltage systems on an Audi, like a Q7. Worked on one the other day. It had the standard 12 volt system. Of course, your 5 volt within your reference is still considered a separate voltage system since it is regulated. Most of the time in a PCM, the 5 volt regulator system is shared with the analog digital converter across all of them, so it's its own system, even though there are a ton of branches coming out of the PCM. So then the 12 volt, and then they had a 24 volt system for some of the lighting and 48 volt for the supercharger or for the turbos, the electric motors that run the turbos. So we're talking about multiple voltage systems within one vehicle. So we're changing the dynamics here of what's going on. I know we're all familiar with using 12 volt systems in the car and then recognizing that some of the systems use 5 volt, but it's changed drastically. We're going to see 4, 5, 6 different voltage systems on vehicles as a common denominator. The 12 volt battery is probably going to start to fade out. I mean, it's going to be 25, 30 years before it's gone. Just think about how long 6 volt batteries were out after we switched to 12 volt. But you're going to see more and more vehicles come out with 24 volt batteries, 48 volt batteries. The 12 volt just does not provide enough for what's being used today. I mean, look at a Town and Country or Sienna minivan. We're talking minivans. There's a ton of them out there, but they have so many electronic components on them. Demand on these is ridiculous. Our battery testing procedures need to change. I mean, we're using the Midtronics makes a great product. I'm sure the majority of professional shops out there are using a Midtronics unit with its capacitive technology to use battery capacitive. What's the word they use? Capacitive, whatever. Smart charging systems and smart battery chargers are not using carbon pile anymore. We're using those. Those are even lacking on battery testing capability. I think the best way to look at a battery is to test it with a scope and watch what happens during cranking. I'll have a video coming out soon about a little case study I did about a newer Nissan that would continue to set U codes. Ended up being a bad battery that tested good on every test. It tested good on the Pico built-in test that's built into the automotive software suite. Tested good on a Midtronics EXP 1200. Tested good on a carbon pile. Good by all those standards. But the problem is this battery spent like 500 milliseconds under 10 volts during cranking. And we had modules that would stop communicating because the voltage went down so low. So we were getting an extended crank and U codes. I'm sure all you guys that have done full scans on vehicles have seen U codes and just figured, whatever, it's just something that happened driving down the road. But I mean, well, if you scan a GM, you've seen U codes, even a new GM that's not broken. But a lot of these are caused by batteries that are just below specification for the vehicle that need to be replaced, and that's what this issue was. It was a long crank and U codes, and it ended up just being the battery. A battery that tested at like 570 cold cranking amps out of the rated 640 of this battery. I think it was a 24 group size. It was only like 2.5 years old. The terminals were pretty clean, which is odd for a Nissan. But we mapped this out. There'll be a case study. There'll be a video on it. But regardless, it spent about 500 milliseconds underneath 10 volts, and that was shutting the module off. I think we're finding that anything under 150 milliseconds of time that it spins below 10 volts, modules notice that and they shut off. They go to sleep. It's too low voltage. Any experience with the Ford EcoBoost? Yeah, quite a bit of experience. I'm gonna try to pull back to the programming stuff. So if we can have more questions that are programming related, I don't want to kind of trail off. I mean, I could spend hours. We're coming up on an hour, and I think that'll be plenty for a live stream. So we'll. I wasn't sure how much time we're going to have running into all this stuff, or how much stuff I'd have to talk about. I can talk for an hour about a single ISO protocol, SA standard protocol. So I didn't think it was going to be an issue. But if we try to stick to the program stuff, and then I think if this is successful enough, which looks like we got plenty of material and plenty of people interested, we'll do another one next week and just continue on. But if we can, do we have any more program related questions? Multi-year vehicles are no start, no compression with a weak battery. Absolutely. Absolutely, JM. That's a big issue. Will troubleshooting pure electric cars be easier, cheaper, more difficult to compare to standard cars? Yes, all of that. They'll be cheaper when it comes to tooling, most likely, because a scope and a high-quality digital voltometer is going to be your friend on electric cars and scan tools. I can tell you now that if you work on Toyotas and you don't have TechStream and you work on Toyota hybrids, you're missing out some serious capability. There's a lot of battery diagnostics built into the factory scan tool and some of the aftermarket tools too. I have an Autel and a Launch, and I've played around on those and then compared it to what's in TechStream, and I'm telling you, there's some serious power in OE tools, but it's expensive. How important is it to decode messages between modules? Man, that's something you're not going to need to do a lot. It's very difficult a lot of times. The information is just not there. But I have had issues on GMs between the transmission control module and the rest of the network where I've needed to determine if the transmission control module was outputting incorrect information, or if the PCM was receiving incorrect information, or if something else was causing interference in the network, and it was a few and far between situation. I just don't think it's going to be common right now. That information is usually held from the manufacturer and pretty proprietary on decoding it. Do you think Bosch will be coming out with a newer VCI pass-through? Yes, they have a newer VCI pass-through they are working on now. I think it's mostly complete, and it's to meet the new J2534 standard. That's, I think it's -5 or 6, because -4 is a protocol designed for validating OE tools through the J protocol, and then -5 I think is the new one they're working on that has a lot to do with R2R. Yeah, could you do a bit explaining the voltage range all networks should be like Chrysler PCI bus serial data? Yeah, it'd be a long video just explaining voltage biases on just CAN networks, excluding single wire, medium speed CAN. People had a problem with 2010 Hyundai Santa Fe that had a no start at times, ended up being a faulty battery. Yep, absolutely. Genius Car Pros, Autel Elite or DrewTech for programming. Between the two of those, I prefer DrewTech just because of the support. Phil, there you go. Keith will get that video for you, Phil. Flat rate, hit the thumbs up, people. Yeah, thumbs up, guys. Please. I did a video on, yeah, absolutely. Justin, you did do a video on that covered, like, especially Chrysler, you explained on that PT Cruiser. You went through a lot of really good information on that. So go check out JM Diagnostics channel and the Train by Tex. I think, man, I can't, Justin, was the video on yours or was it on Train by Tex? Because I know you've got module communication videos on both. And then don't forget, guys, there's still the still have the poll up there about what JBox you guys are using. I kind of want to get a good idea of what you guys are using out there. Help me kind of gear some of my videos towards that. I'll try to diversify a little bit, get away from as many OE tools. It's in both, absolutely. Okay, so Justin at JM Diagnostics has a video that explains some of that, Phil. I almost forgot about that. I'm trying to focus on everything I got going on in the chat here. He has a video he put both in his channel and the Train by Text that goes through a bunch of that. And he did a really good explanation on the Chrysler network. I'm gonna get some both. Yep, absolutely. So I check that out. I don't know if you guys notice or not, but I don't get notifications hardly for a lot of the channels do unless I ring the bell. Gotta go. See you later. See you later, Lance. I'm fixing to wrap up here too. I think nobody wants to listen to me talk for an hour. Let's see. Yeah. So if you ring the bell notification on any channel you want to get notifications on, it's important because I'm not getting notifications hardly. Axelrod 21, new DIY weekender, but looking to get into newer cars, so glad to show. Awesome. The big differences between difference making while flashing the same ECU type, like engine ECU in relation to the time it takes, and does it depend on the car and tool? So, especially with time it takes, yeah. Man, last weekend I did a instrument panel cluster on a 2015 Silverado and it took like 45 minutes. And then I did a radio module on the same truck and it took like 7 minutes. That was the same truck with the same Wi-Fi, using the same software, hardware, back to back. Does it depend on the car and tool? So it does depend on the car. It does depend on the tool, especially if you're doing like, on my business page I put a, man, I don't know if it was like a blog post or what you want to call it. It's an informational piece I put about some early GM Class 2 stuff and the data speed they use to transfer information and what tool you use will either pass or fail the flash. And it does depend upon the hardware you use and the year and the make and if it's ECU or if it's a body control module or what it is. Some of the calibration files are huge. Do you do mobile programming? Yes, I do mobile programming. That's kind of what I wanted to try to get this to stay on, was the differences in mobile and shop environment flashing. For the most part, if you're in a shop environment and you're doing a lot of programming, it's pretty easy to get everyone in the shop used to your procedure on how you don't want them walking over cords to your battery maintainer, and you don't want people coming and opening doors and pulling stuff out. But I'm telling you, you get out there in the mobile world and you get shops that you're at, they'll come and just open a door and come look for something because they thought they left a tool in there. Some dude will unplug your battery maintainer so they can plug in a floor machine or a battery charger for another vehicle. I mean, I'm telling you, people come and mess with stuff all the time. You just gotta be prepared for that stuff. You have to get a procedure set up of how you let them know what you're going to be doing, what not to do. You need to have a good open line of communication with other shop you're working on if you're doing mobile programming. That's for sure. And Keith at New Low Auto can give you a ton of information on that. If you go to his channel, you'll see how he interacts with people a lot. I just don't have a whole lot of time to set up and film while I'm out doing stuff. Usually I try to screen capture a lot of information, grab as much data as possible, and then take all that and make it into a video. Have you ever had the Bosch VCI let you down during flashing? No, I've not had it let me down. I do have a friend of mine who had it drop out and it no longer communicates with GM Class 2 stuff. It's just some internal circuitry that had an error, but for the most part, it's never let me down. What are the biggest errors users shops do for a flash to fail? The biggest error and hiccup I see happen is the failure to read OE service information, to know what you need to do before you start the flash. A lot of Fords, you have to have 2 keys in order to do the flash, because when you get done, it's going to make you redo and re-register all of the keys. So make sure you read the service information, read what it takes, make sure there's no special tools or the procedures, make sure you have a scan tool that's capable of doing any functions after the flash is completed. A lot of security immobilizer stuff has to be done after you do a flash, and if you don't have the tooling to do that, you can complete a flash and then the vehicle is now inoperative. So just make sure you read the factory service information. If you don't have access to it, I don't know what to tell you. There's no easy answer to it. All data doesn't have everything. It's some data. Identifix doesn't have everything. The OE service information doesn't have everything. Unfortunately, I've ran into issues with new cars. If you're out doing flashes at body shops and doing brand new cars, the factory service information is incomplete. It's not there, and you may be the guy that finds out that something needs to be changed. That's what they have field service technicians for. They're always sending out engineers to these dealers to fix stuff that wasn't dealt with from the manufacturer. What are the best programming tools adding up to 15K to start for most cars? Up to 15K, I mean, if you got 15 grand to start with of upfront cash, not including subscriptions, you can get most of the OE tools that you would need to start. If you're going to include that in subscriptions, then you got to have a yearly, monthly budget, and it's ever changing. It'll never stop. I would start with buying OE tools, identify the demographics that you're in, identify the vehicles that are in your market, and equip yourself best scan tool and diagnostic wise for those vehicles. And then as you build up your tools and increase in the amount of money you make, buy the other ones that you're missing to fill the gaps. How do you get good internet for flashing? You have to have you can use, when I started out, I used my cell phone and turned it on a mobile hotspot, but Verizon in my area has fantastic, I mean, across the nation, Verizon has the best service. I'm sorry, I know everyone wants to argue that and everyone else is close to that, but I'm telling you, Verizon has the most dependable service for me in my area. They offer mobile hotspot, and that's what I go with. I try, if a shop I've identified has good internet, I mean, you can go in and do a speed test on it and make sure it's stable and make sure your connection that you're at is good, then you can use their internet, but you just want to, I mean, you want to make sure that it's stable and it's fast. Also, it may behoove you to check the wiring on the outlet you're using to plug in your battery charger. I had a shop that the outlet was junk. It was really weird. I checked the actual frequency on the outlet, and it was like 50 hertz, 53 hertz, and it was really unstable. Dude had some really cruddy wiring. I ended up running a really long extension cable to a neighboring building, but we went and talked to that owner, and it had a good stable 60 hertz on the thing. It was getting some weird noise. I always do a couple checks before I do a flash, and there was some crazy noise on the line, so that was an issue. So I mean, there's a lot of little things you learn as you go to check. Biggest mistake is not reading all the procedure instructions. Absolutely, that's what I was talking about, Justin. Read the factory service information. Karsten's leaving. See you later. Thanks for sticking around. Train by text. Thanks for the awesome vid. Thanks for the shout out. Train by text. Absolutely. Chris, is flashing charged per vehicle or per ECU per hour, and what price range? Mobile more than at a shop? Yeah, so I charge more than some shops do because I'm coming to you. That's my gas, my equipment. It's dependent upon the manufacturer and the vehicle and what tool I have to use. Really depends upon how much I'm charging and if I'm flashing one particular thing. If it's a GM and I log into the ECU and there's 4 calibration updates for the ECU, that's one flash. I'm completing one flash. If I've got to go and check every module and you want me to check every single module, you're probably going to get an additional charge per module. But I mean, you're going to need to find out what's happening in your area and what guys are doing, and either be competitive or let me rephrase that. I don't want to say be competitive. You're going to be competitive just by offering a better value. I am not the cheapest, but for what I charge, I offer the best value. That means I could be 3 times the cost, but if I'm offering a service that's correct, with the correct tooling that has a better outcome, if I use a J-Box and flash something, or if I use an OE scan tool and another mobile guy uses a J-Box and the outcome is the same, there's no different value for the customer. If I use an OE tool that succeeds every time and don't have any failures that damage modules, and another mobile guy uses a J-Box and it causes 10% of the time a module failure and the customer's eating that cost, I'm offering a better value. So it really depends what you're doing, what you're using, your success rate, how efficient you are, the communication with your customer. A lot of that all has to matter. Yeah, maintainer, not a charger. Absolutely. Good catch, Pico. So, guys, we are at 5:06. I've been out of coffee for a bit. judging by how much more there is to cover, you guys can expect probably around the same time next week, next Sunday, unless I've got some family stuff going on, to be doing that. Have you ever bricked an ECU that had to be replaced? Chris, I'm not going to answer that because I'm not going to jinx myself. But I am going to wrap this up, guys. I appreciate everyone watching. Thank you for all the questions. Please keep commenting the video below after it's released. After, I think it takes like 24 hours or something to come out now, because my first live stream, they're going to freak out on me and make sure I didn't get naked. Appreciate all the interaction, guys. We'll see you next time.